weekend's going to be a very wet one, Nick.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris. Right, now then, exposed electrics, mould and damp. These are just a few of the conditions that some unscrupulous landlords are forcing their tenants to live with. A lack of social housing, as well as cuts to benefits and legal aid, are thought to be why around 1 million privately rented homes in England are classified as dangerous. The Chartered Institute of Environmental Health, who released the figures, believes these numbers are set to rise. Well, Caroline Thorpe is the deputy editor of Inside Housing magazine, and she's with us here now. Why is it that landlords can get away with letting people live in properties that are in very, very substandard conditions?
Well, one of the problems is that there's no mandatory accreditation system in England for landlords, and obviously the majority of people in the UK who live in private rented accommodation are living there in England. In Scotland there is a system where landlords have to register, but it's not the case in England. So while some councils will have voluntary schemes where landlords can sign up, it's a sort of kite mark system,
so
if you will.
Landlords, they'll get inspected and then
they
authority says you're fine.
Exactly, you're fine, and there's benefits for the landlords as well as tenants, because they might then get discounts for certain contractors, for example. But tenants know that there's they know there's a certain standard they can expect and where they can go if there's a problem.
Tenants have rights, of course, don't they? And what are those basically?
Well, tenants pay the rent and they expect a decent standard of living in return. But there aren't as many rights as you'd expect, in that if you're a social tenant, for example, there's something called the Decent Home Standard, where homes have to be a certain standard. That was dropped. The last Labour government dropped that for the private rented sector in 2007. So in fact there's no standard that these properties necessarily have to meet, other than standard things such as the gas safety requirements, where the gas has to be checked once a year, that kind of thing. But again, no one's necessarily checking that all landlords are doing that. I mean, some local authorities are better at it than others, and with cuts coming, it's expected that, for example, their health and safety officers or whoever might carry out those checks will be doing that less frequently in some cases, because difficult decisions will have to be made by councils as to where they put their money.
And the point should be made, shouldn't it, that rented accommodation is liable to become where many more people are going to have to live as property prices remain relatively high.
Exactly.
And people are having difficulty making ends meet.
Exactly. Not only are people being squeezed out of the owner-occupier market, but there's already evidence that people who are privately renting are unable to afford their current accommodation. So the number of people made homeless in the last lot of homeless statistics as a result of their tenancy coming to an end, or because they've got into arrears, has grown. So there's already signs that people are no longer able to afford their current rented accommodation and are likely to fall prey then to unscrupulous landlords who may not be providing the best quality accommodation, and that obviously has serious implications for health.
Well, we should be looking further at this here on BBC Breakfast, but for the moment, Caroline Thorpe, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, the power of hair, a turbo boost for skiers, and predicting the future with a turtle and orangutan. It's this week's weird and wonderful video stories in Newsbeat's Odd Box with Dominic Byrne.